What's going on, everybody? FYB presents Wise Word Wednesdays, a quick stream that will help you get closer to accomplishing your dreams. Listen, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this Wise Word Wednesday, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, on StreamYard, whether you're listening on Spotify, or whether you're watching this on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live. I want to say thank you for taking a moment of your time to just tune in to what we do here weekly on Wise Word Wednesdays on the YouTube channel. Listen, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that like button, YouTube, Facebook, they all have little metrics that they do. They all have little algorithms that they do. And just hitting the like button really helps promote the page. It really helps promote the efforts. It helps promote the guests. And also, you may never know what you're like. And when that shows up on someone's feed, what that can do to someone else. This information that we're providing for you can be literally like life-changing for someone else. So I would encourage you to hit that like button. And also, if you're following us on YouTube, on the Wise Word Wednesday YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button if you're not following us already. Go to YouTube, just type in Wise Word Wednesday. You will see our YouTube channel. You know, we are coming to you every single week with a guest that's going to talk about their experience in their particular career field. We have nobody's excluded from any type of career field. I know that we've had a couple of motivational speakers as guests these past couple weeks, but that's not the only people that we're looking for. We're looking for anybody and everybody that has a career, because we know that this world has a lot of different people and everybody has different dreams. And our goal is just to provide you with information that's going to help you get a little bit closer to your dreams, to make sure that your struggle is not the same exact struggle that we had. I just wanted to make you just a little bit more prepared for your career. So today we have a super dope guest that I'm going to bring up. This man is amazing. I've been following his work for a while, and so I'm really excited. He's an entrepreneur. He's a motivational speaker. He's a talented artist. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could do me a favor and welcome my guest, Mr. Maserati-E. What's going on, brother?
Hey. What up with it? What up with it, man? Juice to be here.
Man, glad to have you. Let's just start off. Tell the people just a little bit, like, who is, Maserati? Of course, I gave you a quick intro, but tell the people a little bit about who you are.
Most definitely. So I definitely could start off. I think let's start with the story, right? Fun fact about myself, but in actuality, not too fun at all. I'm formerly incarcerated, and unfortunately, at the age of 17, during the commission of a robbery, I shot a man. But fortunately for the both of us, that man lived. And ultimately, I was sentenced to 10 years with 2 strikes. And during my journey of incarceration, it was just a lot that I learned. It was a lot that I learned about myself. It was a lot that I learned about the ways of the world, if we will. And ultimately, one of the biggest takeaways from my journey of incarceration, from that experience, was really understanding, the power that we possess as people, how powerful people can be. And one of the things that kind of led up to me to even develop a mentality to commit the crime that I did was battling like severe power issues and internalizing like self-input mental limitations and things of that nature. So ultimately, being able to find a safe place within a very toxic environment, and then getting equipped with the skills and the tools, to see the power of myself and the people around me, I now utilize this experience to make a difference to whatever degree and capacity I can. Of course, definitely want that to be as massive as possible for sure. But that is a huge part of who I am. And it was a lot that was gained through that experience in response.
Wow, I love that story. Obviously, like I said, there's, like you said, there's some, not so fun, but the fact that you were able to kind of overcome your circumstances, and it's crazy the way that you look at it, how it's like, thankfully that person survived, right? Because like it would have been a completely different sentence, right, had that person not survived, and so the trajectory of your future could have been changed by that one instance. So I think it's beautiful that you have kind of like that perspective on it, you know what I mean? And don't look at it as like it was all bad. It's like, yo, well, there was some good that actually came out of that situation because it could have been worse.
Right.
So I love that. So tell me, I know some people may have saw the ticker going across. Like, what got you interested in music? And I see, like, when I've seen some of your content, I think you're playing like the guitars that are like a ukulele. I can't tell.
I get that all the time. So it's a guitar. It's just a very small model guitar. It's a,
Okay.
Fender
Acoustic
MA1.
guitar.
Yeah, small
Okay.
acoustic guitar. It's just super small. It's a compact size.
Got you.
For
Got you.
sure. And yeah, a quick story about that real quick. That actually was a loaner in San Quentin. I got there with my own guitar, and they had a loaner program, or they like handed out guitars and things of that nature, and they allowed me to keep it because, you know, they believed in my vision and what I was doing, and believed I had a gift and talent. So they supported me by allowing me to keep that guitar. But yeah, it's a small model MA1 Fender.
Got you. Okay,
And
no doubt.
as far as what got me interested in music, man, music is in my genetic makeup, bro. Like, real talk. Like, I'm talking down to my grandfather's grandfather. You know what I mean? Like, they were all showmen and musicians, from the piano to the guitar to singers. You know, my mom was a performer. She was a rapper. My pops was a producer, you know what I mean, and had deals with like Sony and stuff like that. Like, so that was in my genetic makeup. So I always loved music and had a fascination for it. You know what I mean? Like, I like when I say I like music, it ain't like I just like rap, hip hop. I like all music, bro. Like, you could catch me slapping some classical. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no doubt.
for sure. But yeah, that was in my genetic makeup, man. Literally, as long as I can remember, had that interest and that love for it, for sure.
Man, that's dope. And you know, you can tell people who were like bred to do this, right? Like, you can tell by their artistic ability and just their love for the art. Like the fact, like you say, it's not just what, it's not like I just love rap, I just love hip hop, or like I just love R&B. It's like, no, you have a wide range of appreciation, you know what I mean, for music. And I think that's dope because a lot of people, I think the times have changed, right? Because, you know, we grew up kind of 90s, early 2000s, and so we've seen music shift, right, to go from like a real talent to like, how can I get the most streams or the most views, right? And so it's like, you know, kind of dumbed down a lot of what the actual content of the music is. So I love when I can hear a person say like, look, no, I appreciate old school art and artists and music because they really had something to say. And that's kind of what I love about your music as well too, is that you genuinely have like something that you bring for people to be able to kind of learn from, to be inspired by, and to also relate to based on the circumstances that you've had. So I think that's dope.
That's deep, man. That's deep, and I want to thank you, man, for receiving it in that type of way and reciprocating it, because that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. Is really to make an impact, bro. I really, you know, hope to not only be heard but be felt. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like you feel me, bro. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's love. It's love. I feel it for sure. I feel it for sure. So if you can, you know, tell us, could you just take us through a day in the life of Maserati-E? Like what is your daily routine consist of? Because people who aspire to become artists, they don't understand like those 10,000 hours of practice, right? That work at the end. But they also need to understand that you still have to navigate being a human being. Like, nobody's gonna pay your rent for you just because you want to do, you know, art, or just because you want to be an entrepreneur. Like, you still got to pay rent, you got to still pay light bills and all those things. So if you could, like, what's a day in the life of Maserati-E as a human being?
Definitely. A lot of work. So I'm currently working 4 jobs. So my days, it really varies. I have a very sporadic schedule. I'm again working 4 jobs. One as a radio host for the show on Sirius XM, the Last Mile Radio. Oh, we now on all platforms too. Shout out. We on all was granted access to go beyond the paywall. Thank you, Sirius XM. Love y'all.
Shout out.
Got that job, as well as I'm an audio engineer and sound designer for a podcast called Uncuffed that's produced in San Quentin State Prison as well as Solano. So I do like the original sound design for that, do like engineering work, get the levels right, make sure everything up to radio standard, and send it to the lead engineer, as well as doing my music professionally. So that comes with, creating for sure. I love to create and compose, from production down to writing, everything, all genres. So it's a lot of that going on, as well as working at a school. Me and my bro, man, the co-creator and former sound designer of the infamous podcast, Ear Hustle, my dog, man, Antoine Banks Williams, me and him.
Wow.
We helped the Branson School out in Marin in Ross, California, a super dope school, very prestigious school. Helped them get a $200,000 grant geared towards like reentry for people of our experience, being formerly incarcerated returned citizens, to be able to rely
Wow.
on our natural skill sets. So like the lessons that we learned in life, the tools that we were able to gain and implement in life, that each one teach one kind of thing, we're able to implement that and get like sustainable living wages off of that. You know what I mean? So the way my days look, prime example, like today, had to drive 2 hours from Sacramento to Marin to be on campus. Tomorrow, got
Damn.
to record, and you feel what I'm saying, for the Last Mile Radio, and then got other meetings for other business things, music related. So I guess in a nutshell, what a day look like for me, it really depends on what job is at hand. You know what I'm saying? But it's gonna be work related for sure every day.
Right, right. No, no doubt. That grind is real. You know what I mean? That's but I think it speaks to, the mentality that you have is like, I'm not gonna fail, right? Like I'm gonna make something happen. And not only am I gonna make things happen for myself, but I'm gonna also make things happen for people, like you said, who are formerly incarcerated, and give them an opportunity. So could you talk a little bit about, your experience in being incarcerated in regards to like the motivation? Because like I said, I've checked out your content. Like you have, pictures and videos of you playing like in car while you were incarcerated, right? Like literally doing music. So like at that time where many people may see that as like the end all, like it's a wrap, I'm done. Like you said, nah, not only am I gonna continue to grind, but I'm gonna find ways to be able to get like an extra guitar, give it to me, like provide, like I'm gonna figure out a way to make my dream work regardless of my circumstances. So like what kept you motivated as you were incarcerated to be able to continue your dream?
Honestly, I think one of my biggest motivations, man, was the dream, if that make any sense, right? Because like some people may say I'm living a dream now, but in reality, I'm still in pursuit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think ultimately, just that ability of potentially making a huge impact, to get people to move differently based on like thinking differently, right? Like
Right.
I'm a firm believer, people treat you the way they see you, but that could be lethal when you're not seen as an equal. So one of my biggest things, like,
Bars. Hold on. Bars.
so, you feel me? What one of my biggest things was really utilizing the music, for several things. One, ventilation for sure, and processing my emotions, but also with the intent to shift perspectives. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like I really wanted to shift perspectives, even if it was just by a centimeter, because I feel like, your perception is ultimately what shapes your reality. You feel what I'm saying? So I
yeah.
felt like by me dropping my experience and the way I felt in my music, ultimately I could touch hearts, and that could ultimately get people to move differently and treat people differently. And we can potentially see a better tomorrow as a whole. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So that was some of the things that kept me going. Being confined behind those walls and seeing the injustices and, being oppressed, and really just not allowing that to serve its purpose. And to what I mean by that, right? Like I felt like the purpose of incarceration, especially in California, like California prisons, I really feel like it was designed to oppress and further exacerbate, a mentality of criminality. You know what I
right.
mean?
Right.
It was really designed to make people more animalistic. And now we're starting to move in a much progressive direction. But I was incarcerated and experienced a lot of dehumanizing conditions. You know what I mean? A lot of oppressive conditions. So instead of allowing those conditions and experiences to break me, I use that as motivation to fuel me. So nobody else ever have to feel this again, or we could put an end to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like honestly, I would say that was probably my biggest fire that kept me going, bro. Like really, putting the end to the madness, bro.
No, that's real, and I think we have as a society, especially more specifically in America, like we have this perception that like okay, well, they're in prison, so they don't deserve, right? Like, and for me, I'm just like I understand. having family members and friends that, that have been incarcerated, or that are incarcerated, like, that's still a human being. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I'm going to prison as a punishment, not for punishment. I'm not going to prison and then going to be punished in prison. Like, the me being away from my family, me being behind those walls, me not being able to vote, not having access to certain freedoms, that's my punishment. But that doesn't mean that I don't deserve air conditioning. That
Right.
doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying, that like the food that I eat should be crap. That doesn't mean that like I shouldn't be able to, be treated as a human being because I made a mistake. Like no, nobody is perfect. Of course, there are some mistakes that we say, hey, listen, you deserve some time for what you did. But the purpose isn't just to cast them away. The purpose is, well, at least the way I see it as it should be, is the
Right.
purpose is to rehabilitate me so that way I can learn from my mistake and return to society a better human being. But as you said, now the way our criminal system, our criminal, because I don't like to call it criminal justice system, I like to call it a criminal injustice system in that sense.
Real talk.
um
Real
you know what I'm
talk.
saying? The system, it literally, like you said, dehumanizes and criminalizes people, and then it has a huge retention rate to where, like, because people, you know what I mean, they're treated so poorly inside those walls, when they get out, technology has improved so much, like it's so advanced, their jobs aren't looking to hire people because they have to mark that F on their application. Like, all these different opportunities are kind of stripped from them. So then it's like, I'm gonna go back to what I know best. Well, I was just in prison for a couple of years learning the best ways to do certain things and advancing my criminal mindset. So now I'm gonna go do that. And then, because that's all I have to do to survive, like, I still need a job, right? And so for me, I've always felt like the way that we kind of look at criminals, the way that, like, the former criminals, incarcerated people, it's inhumane and it's stupid. You know what I'm saying? It's stupid because that person still has something to contribute. And that's what I love about your story, is that you're showing, like, look, bro, I just got $200,000 for a school, right?
Right.
Like clearly I have something to contribute in this society. Don't judge me just based on my mistakes, but judge me based on how I was able to learn from my mistake and improve, you know what I'm saying, as a human being.
Absolutely. I think one thing a lot of people need to realize, and it's going to be very difficult to come to grips with this, but slavery never stopped. This is quite literally
Man,
the continuance of slavery due to the 13th Amendment. When I first got put on game, about the 13th Amendment and the power that it held, it almost moved me to tears, man, real talk, because I still was incarcerated at that time and realized, like, damn, I'm quite literally a slave right now. And
wow.
I mean that in the most literal sense possible, not metaphorically, not symbolically. Like, when they be like, oh, this modern day slavery, a lot of people say that, as a metaphor, but in actuality, like, the 13th Amendment literally uses the word in 2023 right now, slavery. You feel what I'm saying? Slavery and involuntary servitude, slavery, again, just
Man,
the word, you feel me, is punishable by a crime. And that's been in effect since the 1800s. You know what I mean? So quite
right.
literally, in my opinion, that's the reasoning behind a lot of the justifications, air quotes on that, with the injustices that we see in there, with the with the disinhumane treatment in there, with the dehumanizing treatment, excuse me, and the
Yeah,
oppressive treatment, because it's literally a spawn from the not so modern slavery. I don't
right.
want to say ancient, because that ain't ancient times, but the past that we know of slavery, from the transatlantic slave trade. You feel what I'm saying? And I think it's very hard to, restructure the person's mind to to no longer be set in those kind of ways, because in my opinion, and I think if we, even just pay attention to the facts, like, that's what the system was designed to do. So we need to
Right.
deconstruct the system and then reconstruct it in a way that's actually equitable, in a way that actually leads towards habilitation. Because I got a mentor, a momager of mine, Layla Steinberg. Shout out Layla.
Shout out Layla.
On the real, she said at one point, we don't need to rehabilitate, we need to habilitate, because at the end of the
Mm,
day, like, the environments that we inhabited wasn't the healthiest. You know what I mean? A lot of that comes with conditioning that ultimately leads to the prison pipeline. You feel what I'm
right.
saying? So we need to habilitate, not rehabilitate. You know what I'm saying? We need to break it all the way down, start from scratch, and come new. And I think that's the type of things that can continue to make a difference. And another thing I want to address too, um, in prison, it is a lot of people, you know what I mean? It is a lot of people that don't make the right decisions. It's a lot of people that go through that revolving door. It's a lot of people I mean, just calling a ball, a strike a strike. It's a
Yeah.
lot of people that become better criminals.
Yeah.
However, it's a large number, I would say equal, 50-50 of people that don't take that route, people that go in there and
Right.
grow just like how I did. And it might not be through music. Like I know people that literally are like owners of tech companies right now,
Lawyers.
law, like legit,
Yeah.
like from law to mechanics to various trades and things of that nature. But one thing I think a lot of people lose sight of when having prison in thought is they lose sight of the similarities from being incarcerated to being in the free society, right? And when it boiled down to it, it's a lot of mental aspects that are completely the same. Like
Mm.
if I want to be a fuck up in prison, it's the same as me being a fuck up out here on the streets. You know what I
Right.
mean? If I want to get involved in selling drugs or gang banging or whatever, whatever destructive path a person may choose, those same things, same struggles are behind those walls. Like this
Mm.
drugs, it's not drug free in there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like people don't go to prison and just all of a sudden get sober. Like those are active choices geared towards progression. And
Right.
it's a large number of people that are actively choosing to progress in their life. You know what I mean? That it just doesn't get represented well. And that's for a reason as well. Sensationalizing, the negative aspects only further condition our minds of what the people look like are deemed to be in those experiences, like mine being incarcerated. You know what I mean? So
Facts.
I think we like what you're doing right now, pulling me on, you feel me, giving me the opportunity to reveal the truth of this experience. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think these are the type of steps that need to be taken, like what I do on my show on the Last Mile Radio. You know what I mean? We chop it up with a bunch of returned citizens about the things that they got going on, so we can combat this leading narrative, because it's honestly not as true as people may think.
Yeah, no, that's facts, and I love that y'all are doing that. And part of when I went and got my master's, and part of my like research was, and I'm saying this because you touched on this a little bit, and I want to kind of highlight it, go into more depth about it. Is the environments that we grow up in, right? And so part of my research was just about the lack of black male representation in K through 12 education,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Or in higher education as well too. It's like for me, I was kind of what people would consider to be a troubled youth. I went to eight different schools, you know what I mean? And so those 8 schools, and I went to college, got a 4-year degree, then I went to a master's, got that degree, and I only had one black male teacher in my entire life, and it was for my master's degree
Hmm.
for one semester. You know what I'm saying? So think about just what that does to the mind of a young black man when he goes to school and he sees himself not represented at all, not in the textbooks, unless you're talking about slavery,
Right.
not, you know what I'm saying? Like not in the music they playing, not in the lessons that they teaching, none of that stuff. You don't see yourself represented whatsoever. And then you also find yourself getting in trouble all the time in school because they don't understand how you communicate. We a little bit more expressive. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We may be like, if you start asking people LeBron versus Jordan, it's gonna make it seem
It's
like
going
people
down.
gonna fight. You feel me?
For
It's
sure.
going down. But that's just the way that we express ourselves. We know that we just talking, right? Like we just having a good time. But to a person who's not familiar with our style of communication or what the way that we operate, they gonna say, oh, they're violent. You know what I mean? There was a study that came out by Dr. Luke Wood. Actually, he was a part of this study. He's now the president of Sacramento State. He came out with a study back, I think, in 2018 that talked about how Sacramento County, that right, has two of the top suspension rates of the top 5 suspension rates in California for Black students. 2 of the top 5 are from Sacramento County alone. Like, and that's over LA, right? That's over Oakland Unified School District, 2 school districts in Sacramento County, right? And so that just tells you right there. And the majority of those suspensions were from what's called willful defiance. And willful defiance means, hey, go sit down. And a student says, nah, all right, get out. You suspended, get out.
That's
So
big.
right. So it's like when you're suspending a Black student, and again, my focus is on Black men, right? I'm trying to improve us, right? But in order to improve us, we also have to make sure that we taking care of us at a young age. So if a kid says he don't want to sit down, and that's liable for suspension, what are you setting that student up to do or to think about education in the whole? He's gonna be like, this ain't a place where I'm accepted. It's on a
Right.
football field, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's in entertainment, but you're not gonna accept me in education at all. So I love how you talked about that's like the conditions that we grow up in, right? Coming from low income housing, right? Like, you got free lunch programs and things like that, that's what I grew up on, right? I was on
Yeah.
free lunch my
Same.
entire K through 12 experience. I used to love them little teriyaki with the
Yeah,
rice, you know what
for
I'm
sure,
saying?
for sure. Most
You feel me?
definitely.
So it's like we have to change the environment that our young students, that our young, especially our young black men, that they're growing up in, before they even get to the point where they feel like they have to commit a crime to be able to be successful. You get what I'm saying? So I love that like that's something that you also can feel when you're talking about the recidivism rate, or I'm sorry, the retention rate in regards to incarcerated people. So I appreciate that, man.
Most definitely, most definitely. Well said too, for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's deep. You know it get deep.
Right, right. So this is probably the last question I kind of ask in regards to incarceration, because I do want to talk more about your posts as well too. But have you ever sometimes for me, right? Like, we talked about the way we were connected through my boy Funk, right? My boy Funk told me about you. He was like, "Yo, bro, I see you doing motivational speaking. You got to connect with this, bro." So shout out to Free Funk for
Free
hooking this up,
pump.
man.
Eric,
100%, man. It's all love, brother. We definitely, you know what I'm saying, cheering for you and hoping for you to come home soon, because
coming
it's been
soon.
too long. Been too long.
For real.
But for me, at times, like, regardless of how successful I get, I often, feel survivor's guilt, right? Like, I feel bad for certain people who are in certain circumstances that genuinely they can't really help at the moment. And so sometimes it gets hard for me, and I've been going to therapy now for about 3 years, and it's been great. I go every week. But it's hard for me sometimes, because it's like, yo, I still got people in the struggle, right? Like, in the struggle. And it's like, it's hard for me to really enjoy the success that I'm having. Like, so have you ever had that? Like, do you feel any type of like survivor's guilt from, you know what I mean, from your circumstances and overcoming the things that you've done?
Absolutely, absolutely, man. All the time, actually. Like, even still to this day. And I've been out
Mm.
4 years now. Just made 4 years, August 7th. Um,
Congratulations, brother. 4 years
thank
of
you, thank
freedom.
you. But definitely, it's real bittersweet, bro. So, like, when I first got released, literally my first 60 days, I went back. I went back in to do a concert, went back to San Quentin. And it was just real bittersweet, bro. I the best way I could describe it, um, if you've seen 12 Years a Slave, man, when Solomon finally made it back and was a free man, right? Like, I could only imagine the thoughts that was going through his mind, knowing what them people was experiencing and knowing was their reality, because he had to
Mm.
live it. That's how my mind work on the regular. Like, I know what's really going on behind them walls. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I know how oppressive it really is. I know how dehumanizing it really is. Like, don't get me wrong. I again, me and a lot of people like me, you know what I mean, was fortunate enough to create a safe place within this very toxic environment. We laugh to keep from crying, all that, you know what I mean.
Right.
However, I wouldn't wish that on nobody. I wouldn't wish that on nobody, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's people in there. Honestly, I would trade places. You know what I mean? Not necessarily
Mm.
in the sense of trade places like for life, like for the L. However, it's people that been in there way longer than me and helped me become who I am. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And gave me so much game and was able to impact the entire community in there. And they still there. You know what I mean? Here it
Yeah.
is. I did what I did and I'm out, but they still there, bruh. And that just really irks me, because I know how many, when I can't say I know how many good people are behind that wall, but I know so many good people behind those walls
Yeah.
that I feel don't deserve to be there. I feel are like genuinely, sincerely, people that grew, they changed, they evolved. They're not the
Hmm.
person that committed that crime that they committed way back in the 80s, way back in the 90s, even the early 2000s. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, bro, that be eating me up. You feel me? Because it's like I'm out here, I'm living life, and it makes it difficult at times to fully enjoy it, because it's
Yeah.
like I feel like it's other people that deserve what I got and more. You know what I mean? Because they didn't put in more work and came further on their journey. So it's like, hell yeah, I definitely always got survivor's guilt. Every time I go inside, and see my peoples and stuff that's still there, whenever I leave, it's just like, damn, like I wish I could just bring y'all with me. You
Yeah.
feel me? Like, and then sometimes, like I said, I be thinking like, like I feel like they deserve to be out here versus me. Like I feel like
Mm,
are better people than me. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's in regards of like what they contributed. You know what I mean? And just where their mind and heart is at. So it's definitely very bittersweet, bro. It's
No,
real.
I feel that, and I think we often forget that not everybody in prison is actually guilty of the crime that they're in prison for.
Real
You know what
talk.
I'm saying? Like, and this
Well,
is kind of why I am 100% against the death penalty, is because even if you kill one innocent person, right, just one, that's
it's
one too many.
too many for
You know what
sure.
I'm saying? So for me, this is why, like, again, I say, like, we need to treat our incarcerated people as human beings. Like, just again, I understand that they may not be able to be into society right now the way that they are, but in their society that they're in, they should still be treated with respect, with honor, right?
Right.
Because they have to come back. That's the goal. They
Like
have to come
Norway
back.
said, like what kind of neighbors you want returning? You know what I mean? Like that's the type of stuff that they practice in Norway. And I can say this, right? So
Mhm.
in California, can't speak for everywhere else, but to my knowledge, what I know about in California, San Quentin specifically, they're completely redesigning the structure. Not the
Mm.
physical structure, but the overall design of how it's ran, right? And they are contributing a lot from Norway, from the Norwegian model.
Okay.
But for that exact reasoning, you know what I mean? Like they're even changing the name. I think it's gonna be referred to now as a rehabilitation center or something like
Okay.
that. I heard they finna start changing the language, not finna be calling this inmates no more. You know what
Nice.
I mean? Because it's just so many things you know that factor in to the oppression, from microaggressions to macroaggressions, you know, the labeling and the conditioning. Like it's so many aspects of that. So
Yeah,
they got a lot of alterations to make for sure. But I say that to say we are moving in a more progressive direction. Still got a whole lot of ground to cover though.
for sure.
Everybody getting off the hook. You feel what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
whole lot of ground to cover. But you know, the longest journeys take the first two steps. And I think we're taking those steps in the right direction finally.
That's a fact, man. And I like that. And I think that's one of the things I like about Gavin Newsom, right? That he's actually being progressive in regards to change for our incarcerated folks, because we need it. We need it for sure. We locked up too many people for
Right.
stupid things. And so I think we need to change it as a whole, even the people that have, committed worse crimes or whatever. But let's talk a little bit about your career. I've seen some of your work. You also do like motivational speaking. So what got you interested in doing that, like being able to encourage other people? I'm a fellow motivational speaker myself, so and it's a gift, right? It's not everybody can't get in
Right.
front of a couple hundred people and talk to them and get them excited. Like that's something hard to do. So
Absolutely.
what got you interested or involved in doing that?
Wanting to break the mold, man. Wanting to break the mold. So, what got me involved in doing speaking prior to my release from San Quentin, me and my bro Banks, remember I told you we kicked off
Yeah.
that tour. We literally, man, was getting our whole dorm searched at the time. It was a prison lockdown, an institutional lockdown, and we was getting the dorm search. And we sitting here chopping it up, kind of I want to say the main topic was like the school to prison pipeline, because he went
Mm,
down hella early, like right after high school. He graduated. He was 18, straight to the pen. Bam. I was a junior in high school when I committed my crime. 17,
mm,
bam, out of there. You know what I mean? So like we really understood the importance of those vital times in our adolescence. You know what I'm saying? And becoming
yeah.
a young man, and how that can really like change the trajectory of your life. You feel me? So we began to structure and outline what our school tour was going to look like. And the main piece to the school tour was the talking. Like we utilized the influence of music because we was going to high schools. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that's, in my opinion, one of the toughest audiences to appease.
Oh yeah.
You doing. I don't care if it's music. You could be a puppeteer. I don't care what it is. High schoolers is brutal, bro.
Yeah, they ruthless, bro.
But we had them silent, man. You could hear a rat piss on cotton. You know what I mean? Like we had them silent, bro. Like really off the edge of their seat. Like, oh my god. And I think mainly was because how we formatted it. So we start off with some music, get you hyped. Now we dope. Now we cool, and now we
Yeah.
hit you with this real stuff and begin to tell our stories. And ultimately, I think the first time we did that, That's what really inspired me, to add that to the repertoire as well, add that to the arsenal, if we will. You feel me?
Yeah.
Seeing the impact of that, being able to connect. It was I don't want to say it transcended beyond the music, but it was another approach that was very efficient and very impactful and effective when connecting with people and getting people to understand you, but ultimately be motivated by you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So after experiencing that, it was closed curtains. I started getting booked to do speakings here and there, but mainly at schools though. That mainly was like my targeted audience. Was high schoolers, middle schoolers, and even elementary. You know what I mean? Because I do think it's vital, man, to start as young as we possibly can. Sometimes high school might be a little too late. You might be already set in your ways, and again, that's a very hard audience to appease. So if we can normalize certain ways of thinking earlier on, you know what I mean, that it becomes normalized, and with that becomes new habitual actions. You know what I mean, and an overall new way of thinking and being aware of possibilities and tools and different ways to navigate. So that's how that came about.
No doubt. No, I love that. When you talk about, your music, um, what is that process like? I also used to do music. I don't do it so much anymore. I feel like I'm like the Andre 3000. I might do a verse every couple years, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
at 16 or something, and
You
then
gotta really
shake.
be feeling it.
You feel me? Exactly. Got to be feeling it. But like, what's that what's that process for you? Because for me, it's like I have to be in the, like I said, I got to be feeling. I got to be in the mood. Like I got to be in the zone. There's sometimes where like I might hear an album that I'm like, oh, I'm ready to bar something
Yeah,
right now. You feel me? But then there are
for
other
sure.
times where it's like I'm not feeling nothing at all. But as an artist, like that, you have that expectation to do music. So like, what is that process like for you when you're trying to create, like, this new streaming hype, overly hyped, you know what I'm saying, trying to get attention in
This
society. Like,
artificial ass world we in
exactly.
now. For real.
You feel me?
Yeah. No, real talk though, real talk. But my process, man, it's really emotionally based, bro. Like straight
Mm,
up. That is my outlet of ventilation. I talk about what I feel, So I gotta get motivated. I gotta get impacted by something to really want to write. Now I can force myself. I've done it, but didn't really like that. Didn't like the way it felt. Didn't like doing that, and nobody probably will ever hear that music ever. But
mm,
typically the things that get me fired up, is experiencing something in life, man, learning something new, reading. Like if I read a book and get some game, the bars start flowing. It's like, oh,
yeah.
it kind of write itself. Um, but yeah, like I produce as well. So sometimes, I cook up a beat and now the bars is coming because it's like the beat is kind of telling a story to me in my mind. It's like, all right, now I got to narrate this. You feel what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But typically though, I would say my inspirations come from experiences in life, man. Whatever's in front of me at that time, if it hit me in the heart or in the mind, you know what I mean? That's usually what get those creative juices flowing for sure.
No, that's dope, man. That's dope. And like I like the fact that like you know when to tell yourself like, nah, I'm not writing right now. Like I'm not feeling it. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah,
Because
definitely.
because the art it'll show.
Definitely. So like I'm gonna be real. Like I've written so much. Like while I was incarcerated, I literally wrote over 500 songs. Like I got,
Wow.
like I keep them by me. That reminder. I just grab a couple, but it's way more right here too. But it's a whole bunch of notebooks. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
wait.
So like
Yeah.
I got a whole bunch of note. This I swear, there's so many more right here. Grab them. But I've written a lot of music, and that makes it kind of difficult at times, because I don't like to be too redundant. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like you can say the same thing in different ways, but you can only do that so many times before you get burnt out on it.
Right.
So it's like I think that's one of the things that kind of go into writer's block for me a lot of times. Like if I'm not experiencing new stuff, it's like I already wrote about all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes it'd be hard. But now I'm at a point where I really don't even write, man. I just do what's known as punch-ins. You know what I mean? Like I just come off the head with it
Yeah.
one bar at a time. So like
Mhm.
I start off, you know what I mean? Like, man, we on the podcast right now. Pause.
Hey.
You feel me? Think of the next bar and then punch in with something different, and by the time it's all said and done, I got a whole song. You feel what I'm
Mm.
saying? So that's been like my process for the past couple years now. Just coming off the head with it, and just allowing the creator to flow through me, man, and put it together bar by bar like that, which is very similar to writing. You know what I mean? Just without
Mm.
writing it down.
No doubt. Not, but that's still a skill set, you know what I mean, to be able to have that. And I think with you having the producer skill, do you do your own like editing for your songs as well too?
Absolutely, absolutely. So like the stuff that I do like on my own, like if I decide to do it myself, then yeah, I'm recording it myself. Most likely made the beat myself, recorded it myself, mixed it. I do like my mastering digitally through eMastered, but I do all the mixing manually though. So do all the mixing and stuff myself. And yeah, try to do what it do. But I
That's
honestly,
good.
a lot of times I prefer to go to the studio so I can just create so I can just focus on creating. I ain't got to focus on getting these levels right. I ain't got to focus on doing these cuts,
Yeah,
mixing while I'm going and all that. I could just focus on just getting it out. You know what I mean? So like that's really what I prefer. But don't get me wrong, like I love it too much. So of course I'm doing a lot on my own too. You know what
for
I
sure. For
mean?
sure. Definitely respect it. Like, so in regards to like your speaking and stuff, and even to your music, to some sort or to some extent, like, what's that process like? Is it challenging for you to kind of share your story, right? Your trauma with complete strangers, when you talk about going to high schools and middle schools and just anybody that that's listening to what you're saying in your music or listening to what you're saying as you're speaking. Like, for me, sometimes like I find it having to repeat my personal experiences, people that died in my family and me getting arrested and things so sometimes it's like, man, like it's a challenge for me at times to share my trauma and to relive that experience continuously. And it's great that I can kind of round it out to where it's like it has a positive spin on it. But
Right.
like for you, what's that like to share your trauma? Is it challenging to do that in front of strangers?
I honestly know that I guess I've been fortunate in that sense because I never really was too like uncomfortable,
Mm,
I've always been like a open book. Like don't get me wrong, I'm a very private person, definitely, enjoy my privacy and need
yeah,
that for sure. But as far as like my story, like I'm a very very open book. And it happened, you know what I mean? So like I've learned to be accountable, and of course I
mm,
got a lot of remorse, and I can't lie, still like shame attached to that. But I think it's a necessity that I do what I do, and be as open and honest and accountable as possible. So it's not like I'm just telling my story like I was bad, went to prison, now I'm good. It's like, nah,
right.
you need to see this process. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You need to see like where I was at, where I was at when I still was the seed before the seed was planted, and then what it looked like watering this seed, making sure it got the sunlight, for this to grow into this beautiful plant. You know what I'm saying? So like I think the details are very important. So I don't shy away from them. You know what I mean? Like I did do what I did. I take full accountability for that. I'm extremely remorseful for that, but it's a lot to learn from it. And it's a lot
Yeah.
of people that I feel could potentially be in that same boat. If they haven't already caused harm, they might be at that point where they're about to. And hearing my story, they might be able to relate and might potentially stop them. You know what I mean? They might be able to learn from me and realize they don't got to touch the fire to see that it's hot. So
Man.
I think the details in my story are very important, and I don't shy away from them. And I guess fortunately, I don't feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
didn't did speakings, like I did a speech while I was still incarcerated too. We was pushing Senate Bill 678, which was a alternative to incarceration. And I was part of like the original development team for that. And they wanted me to do a speech since I was still incarcerated and was part of the original development team for that. And I had to definitely go into the details with my story, with my crime, and the growth and all that. And a lot of people was asking me that, like, how do you feel about that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you finna be on the news, you finna be, involved in politics now, and you might lose some credibility. And I'm like, if anything, I'm gonna gain more credibility.
Right.
Because like if you were part of the problem at one point in time, then you might have better insight than anybody how to fix it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like for me, I don't want to say I'm excited to tell it because I'm definitely not. I just see the benefits in it. I'm excited to see the potential that may come from it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, no, I feel that. I think for me, it's the anxiety that comes from not knowing what the response is going to be like. I
Yeah.
mean, when you up there and telling your story, it's like you just never know how the audience is going to take it. And of
Real
course, like I said, we have that spin on it. And I think, like, you and I kind of have that energy that we gonna make it work, right? Like whatever we do, we gonna make it work. But it's just, for me, like, I have that anxiety. That's why I think it's challenging for me. But I love the fact that, like you said, you're focusing on the fact that you're able to create a lot more from that particular experience, and do a lot. And that's kind of what, in my speaking as well too, I try to, like, focus on what the lessons that I've learned throughout those times, and then try to, turn it into something great. And so that's dope, man. Keep doing what you're doing in that sense, because, like you said, you are, because you were, like you said, a part of the problem. You have clear insight, like exclusive insight, on the perception or the perspective of those who came through that experience. And so you, of all people, would know how to help in the developmental process in regards to improving it. So
right.
I think that's dope. Do you look for, like, fulfillment in your music, or does your music fulfill you, or do you look for fulfillment elsewhere? Because you're married, right? I think that's you're
Yeah,
married, and so you
I'm
obviously,
here now.
yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You got your person, and so where do you get fulfillment, or do you look for fulfillment through music?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I get fulfillment in a bunch of places in my life. Music definitely is an outlet that offers me a sense of fulfillment. Creating music, listening to music, feeling understood. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So, like, when I hear another artist and something they say or they style or something resonates with me to a point that I feel like, that person gets me or I can relate, it makes me feel understood. And
yeah.
for me, that's a very fulfilling feeling. You know what I mean? And then ultimately, my music um is definitely fulfilling for me because it's me a lot of times processing a lot. You know what I mean? It's me
Mm,
getting a lot out. Um and being able to, like, put it out there, you know what I mean, for myself, it's how can it's relieving. You know what I mean? I feel like it relieves a lot of built up tension inside of me, a lot of built up anxiety, a lot of, built up emotions, that was harbored. So when
yeah.
I finally recorded and let it out, like, I feel like that's the true sense of ventilation. It's finally just, it's over, it's out.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It's no longer pent up. So even when I'm doing the songs and kind of like relive, the emotions and everything, it's a sense of relief. You know what I mean? Because it's more reflective versus like getting re-inundated in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a lot of fulfillment there for myself. And then also just knowing, like when I hear people speak about it and how it impacted them and what it done for them, like, that's super fulfilling, man. Like, to know that I can impact somebody and help people and assist in any type of way for anything geared towards progression. Like, that's, I feel like that's all in alignment with my life's purpose. You feel me? So I feel
Yeah.
like I'm doing what I'm meant to do. I feel like those are the things, like that I was born to do. Like, I feel like my purpose, for instance, right? Like, I used to think it was like to save the world or it was to do music and all this other stuff. But now I feel like my purpose in life, I feel like what was revealed to me is to plant seeds. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, it's up to me. And I think that's why I was bestowed with the talent of music, is to plant the seed. I can't save nobody. You got to save yourself. You feel
right.
me? I'm gonna plant this seed, and it's on you to make sure it get watered. It's on you to make sure that it get the sunlight. It's on you to make sure, you feel me, if you want to go the extra mile and add them supplements to make, you know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
all I do. All I gotta do is just plant it, though. You know what I'm saying? And I plant the seed in the minds and the hearts through the music, through the speaking, through the stories. You know what I'm saying? So that's my purpose. So when it's received, that sense of fulfillment is at an all-time high.
Man, I love that, and it's crazy. It's fitting because the name of this episode is The Concrete Rose.
Hmm.
And it's, if I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there, I think Tupac talked about it a while, the rose that grew from concrete. And I think,
Phone book.
yeah, exactly. So, it's, for me, the way I see it is just like, your story kind of is like that little light of hope, right? That little glimpse of hope and opportunity. But it also speaks to the fact that we can come from a tough conditions. We can come from what seems to be impossible conditions and still grow, all we need is just a little bit of light, right? All we need is just a little bit of opportunity. And so the fact that you were just talking about like your life is to plant seeds, I think that it, for me, the concrete rose, you know, there's so many different ways you can take it, but another one I kind of want to talk about is it shows to me that there's potential for growth underneath that concrete, but we can't see it because there's too much concrete covering it.
Come
And so
on, man.
that's kind of the way that I look at it in regards to your story, in regards to incarceration. Like, you're one human being, and look at what you're doing for thousands of others through your work. You're one person, right? One person, one story. Imagine if we gave other people from your similar background an opportunity to share what they have to offer. I'm sure, I'm not saying that everybody's going to be, you know, the next Maserati-E, but what I am saying is that everybody has a story that can possibly change other people's lives, but they have to be given an opportunity. And if you only allow that one rose to grow, then you're missing a whole garden right underneath that. But that rose is still a blessing because it's potential, it's opportunity. It's like, I got something here. So
Right.
that's really why, you know, I named it the concrete rose, because I just feel like your story, man, is it means so much. And depending on who you are listening, you're gonna take something different from that particular story. So it's fitting, man, that you was talking about planting seeds as your purpose.
That's deep. That's deep. And that's dope. That's super dope. I love that, bro. Real
No
talk.
doubt, no doubt. And this ain't even planned. We didn't even talk about it. He didn't even
Like,
know
God,
what the
yeah,
he didn't
real.
even know what the title was, man. I just, you know, I was just like you said, letting the spirit move through me. You know what I'm saying? And
Dope.
that's what came. So I'm super excited about this. A couple of questions I want to get to you before we wrap things up. You know, with you being an artist,
Mhm.
you being as talented as you are, you having a wide history and knowledge of music, what type of advice would you give to others that are looking to become an artist, right? They're looking for a journey in music. What type of advice can you kind of give out that may help separate them from like everybody else?
That and I'm glad you framed it like that right there, because that's one thing I was definitely gonna get at. Be unique. You know what I mean? I feel like one thing in music right now, everybody want to be like everybody else. It
Mm,
really it really isn't too many unique artists with they sound. You know what I mean? I think even I fall into that category. Like some of the stuff that I got sound like other people. You feel what I'm
right,
saying? Or sound
right.
like another vibe. You feel me? However, we know, you know, I got that original sauce. Me and the guitar, you know, that's my
Hmm.
differentiator for sure, for sure. But I think that's one thing I would encourage a lot of people to do is find your differentiator. You know what I mean? Find your niche. Find what makes you you. You know what I mean? And what can make you incomparable. And also, you know, really pursue that and be consistent. I think a lot of people you know, they approach the industry, or they approach, they dream of being in the industry, realize how vigorous it is and how oversaturated it is, and then become discouraged. You know what
Mm,
I mean? But it's like you got to stay consistent. Like, yes, it is an oversaturated market and industry. However, with the tools to know how to navigate, because it's a million ways to make $1 million. In other
right,
words, you know, it's multiple destinations, it's multiple routes to the same destination. You feel
right.
what I'm saying? And it's a lot of ways to make money in music without getting like rich and famous, but you can still, you know, make something cool to live off of to get your bills paid. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Whether that's doing gigs, whether that's you know, it's different aspects to the streaming. Like one of the things I got involved in was NFTs. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Doing the NFTs through Gala Music. Shout out Gala Music. Salute. They doing
Salute,
it.
Gala Music.
You feel me? That was one of the ways. But I would really encourage people to try to find as many gigs as possible, because that's direct payment. You know what I'm saying? You getting paid right then and there, and that's also getting your audience engagement up. You know what I mean? Like if you can hold a show, I don't care if it's 5 people in there, you're gonna have 5 new fans if you do your thing. You know what
Right.
I mean? And the more fans, the more supporters, ultimately is gonna equal the most money. So I think it's about just staying, you know, original, staying organic, because it's a lot of people buying followers and all that, but and that's why they're not getting their cheese, because it's not a real core following. You know,
Talk about it.
for real. I mean,
Talk
I'm gonna be
heavy.
honest. I tried it. I'm a kid. This is a safe place. It's to
Right,
keep it
right.
real. I tried it. You know what I'm saying? I bought
Hey,
100 at one point in time.
hey, look, I ain't gonna lie. I was promoting my post for a quick minute. I said, all right, I ain't trying to do this. Look, I was like, I ain't trying to do this, bro. It's
On the
not worth
real.
it.
But I learned that wasn't the way, because it's not organic. It's not a core
Yeah.
following. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you getting them views, but you're not getting the comments. You're not getting engagement. You're not, you know what I mean? And that's what's needed. Like, if you take
Yeah.
the social media route, the algorithms and all that respond to engagement. You feel
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So if people not commenting, if people not sharing it, if they not saving it, you know what I mean? Then you really not gonna get too much motion. You just gonna have 20,000 likes with 5 comments. You know what I mean? Which ain't a good look. You ain't gonna really get no dollars for that. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
like being organic and getting a core following organically, which is very difficult to do. I'm not just making it seem like that's easy, like just be yourself and you're gonna hit. Nah, you got to definitely be yourself, find your thing, find your niche, you know what I mean, find your swag, your style, your signature style, and then you got to just be very
Yeah.
consistent and open, you know, to network. And I think for myself, and again, like I ain't nobody, man, I'm not way up there, nothing like that, but I've been fortunate enough to network, to get, you know, to get behind some doors, some closed doors. You feel what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And I
Right.
think that's another thing that's very important. Like one thing we see in the Bay Area a lot of times amongst the artists, like it's like crabs in a barrel, man. Like people pulling each other down. Ain't nobody trying to really uplift nobody else, give nobody their flowers and work with each other. It's, you know, all the BS with the gang stuff going on. So it's this
Yeah.
line in the sand, and we need to really erase that and create circles. I think that's another way we can see a lot of people get on too. So I would encourage a lot of people, man, to be open to working with others and networking too. I think that's a big part of it as well.
Man, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel everything you said, man. You could drop the mic on that one. I was everything you said for sure. The last question that I want to ask, and this is just something that, you know, myself and my group, the Fire Your Boss team, we've been doing Wise Word Wednesdays every single week for 6 years. It'll be 7 years this October,
Dope.
where we provide people with just a clip, a glimpse of information that could potentially help. And my old pastor, Wesleyan Childs, he used to say, eat the fish and spit out the bones. So for, you know, this Wise Word Wednesday may be for you, or it may not, right? Like it may not touch you at all, but it's going to be for somebody. And so for those that do, take it in, and those that don't, you can push it to the side, and maybe next week will. But if there was one wise word that you can leave the audience with about anything in life that you feel is important, what would that wise word be?
I would definitely encourage everybody to understand that they're powerful, man, and that they have value and that they matter. And but really understand your power. You got the power each and every day to choose how you respond to each and everything that you face with in life. And that's a lot of power. You got the power to influence the people around you. You know what I mean? We possess a lot of power, and we begin to sleep on ourselves and internalize these self-input mental limitations due to our conditions, like you brought up earlier. You know, when you don't see people that's successful that look like you begin to put yourself in a compartment of what's meant for you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Understand you powerful enough to get whatever it is you want. You just got to figure out the way how. And there is a way how. You just got to put in that work to learn it. You know what I mean? Understand that you powerful enough to overcome any conditions you may be in, past or present. You know what I mean? Like our circumstances don't define us, and they may confine us if you allow them to, but they don't define us if you don't allow it to as well. So I really want people to understand their power, man. And if you play your part individually, I guarantee we will see a difference as a society collectively, for sure, for sure. So understand your power.
Man, I love that. Um, man, this has been super dope, bro. Like this is
For
super
real.
dope. And once again, I gotta give a shout out to Free Funk
Free
for
phone.
connecting us, man. That's beautiful. I'm a huge fan of your work. In fact, one of my cousins was at an event that you did recently, where you were on stage playing the guitar. This was a couple weeks ago, and I
On
was like,
set, the
yeah,
guilt.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, I know, bro. I was like, I know. I know. So yeah, it was beautiful, man. And so I just want to encourage you, man, you know, keep doing what you're doing, because it's making a difference. And I know that oftentimes, and you may not go through this, but I know at times for me, I go through this. Sometimes it can feel like you don't know if what you're doing is actually hitting. Like you don't know if like it's making a difference in people, because you know some people use social media as a measuring stick, and I don't always do it, but there are times where I'm like, dang, like I put my heart into that Wise Word Wednesday. Anybody gonna comment? Like anybody gonna say, you feel me? But so I just want to let you know that, man, I may not always comment. I may not always hit the like button because I be trying to log off of Instagram so that way I'm not on it too much. But
Right.
just know, bro, you making a difference in my life. You making a difference in so many other people's lives, that people that were incarcerated, that were never incarcerated, and people that will never be incarcerated because of the actions that you're doing and the steps that you're taking, and the story that you have. So I genuinely appreciate, you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be able to talk with me on this Wise Word Wednesday platform, man.
It's all love, bro. I thank you so much for allowing me to be on it, bro. For real. Thank
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And where can the people follow you on social media or anything like that?
Instagram at the real Maserati underscore E, TheMaserati underscore E.
No doubt. Do you have like any shows coming up or anything that you might be getting ready to do?
No performances yet, but if you want to book me, go ahead and book me. We could get one real soon.
There
But
you go.
the Last Mile Radio coming out every week, man, on all streaming platforms as well as on Sirius XM. That's our main station, Triumph Channel 111.
That's love, man. That's love. So thank you all for tuning in to this week's Wise Word Wednesday podcast episode. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And as Maserati-E talked about earlier, hit that comment, just type in, you appreciate the words or something, just so that way we can get that algorithm going. But I definitely appreciate my man being here. And I got a feeling it's not going to be the last time we're going to connect, just based on how the conversation went today. So it's much love. So FYB presents Wise Word Wednesdays. I'm gonna end it with a "We Fresh," and I love you. Y'all take care.